Hey guys, it is Dan and Joe back again for episode 2 now of our continuing anthology series. Dan Reviews It presents
the Anthology Zone.
Anthology Zone. And so I put in like 12 or 13 different shows and each episode, and whatever comes up, comes up. We started with the first Twilight Zone. That made the most sense.
Yeah.
But then from now on, it's just whatever comes up on the thing that we have access to. And this is from a show I never even heard of.
I never did.
We've heard of the man involved, but we never heard of this show, you and I.
Yeah.
It is called the Ray Bradbury Theater. Is the full name. It's not just, I think it's interesting, it's not just called Ray Bradbury
To let you
Theater.
know, this is the one.
This is the. It would be like Sir, like if he was a Sir.
Oh, Sir
Ray Bradbury's Theater. So the particular episode that we watched that came up in the numerator is season 2, episode 7, Punishment Without Crime. And we'll talk about that episode specifically. You noticed Donald Pleasance immediately was in it.
Yeah.
And he's been in many sci-fi and horror things over the years. Halloween is one of the chief ones. But a little bit about this program, since you and I had never heard of it.
Yeah.
After we watched the show, we thought, okay, we got to look at what channel this was on, because this was mainstream television.
It was like, how was this on TV back when it was made? Yeah.
So we learned that it aired on HBO.
And that was like,
the first 2 seasons. So this season would have been on HBO. And then after that, USA Network for 4 more years.
Wow.
That's back when, I mean, in the mid-'80s, USA, that was before they did any, like, Monk or any of those standard programs. I knew USA as a kid as the Cartoon Channel. They ran the Cartoon Express all morning. It was, like, Hanna-Barbera stuff. And then
at night, I guess.
At night, it was, well, a lot of reruns, I guess, in the middle of the day. And then at night, I guess they ran like weirdo stuff like this.
Huh.
I think they ran Silk Stockings as well. That was like a big USA show. Do you know what that is?
What's that?
It's like sort of like an erotic, like murder mystery show kind of thing.
Okay.
I was too young to watch it, but I remember it, being big. So this actually apparently does run now on Retro and Comet. I don't know what these channels are, but they're like over the antenna. It's like a MeTV.
Very niche.
Yeah. So I guess they run that, but you can also stream certain episodes on Peacock, the Roku channel, and IMDb TV.
I think some are on YouTube as well.
But yeah, this particular episode wasn't available on any of those, so we had to watch it on YouTube. That's how you and I watched it. Which I'll put the link in the description for people that want to catch it.
And did we originally want to watch another episode? We couldn't because of that?
I think we had when we couldn't find this one specifically, we were like, well, maybe we'll just watch the first episode that's available. But then I thought, well, let's try and track it down somewhere else.
You really wanted to do it, yeah.
I want to be fair to the number generator came up with it.
Like, this is what it says we're watching. We're gonna come in and watch
it says we got to watch Donald Pleasance, and so that's what we did.
Sure.
So here's a little bit about this show on the whole. Ray Bradbury wrote every single episode.
Yeah, I looked that up too.
65 episodes, he wrote them all. Now, a lot were based on pre-existing stories.
But even better.
Some were new.
Yeah.
And sometimes he even would like combine 2 stories into one episode or something.
When I was looking that up briefly, I was like, well, then this is really pure Bradbury.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's interesting because when I think of the best anthology series, there is a name kind of attached to it. Like Twilight Zone, okay, Rod Serling didn't write them all.
They present,
but you
the idea
know
guy.
Rod Serling.
Yes.
Alfred Hitchcock presents. Tales from the Crypt Keeper.
He also
is like he's the host.
So bottling it together. Yeah.
So it makes sense that like Ray Bradbury would have his own show.
But it's like usually, there's the guy that's the producer, the idea man, the host. But, But the guy that actually is writing his own stuff based
all
on
of them.
So he was like very involved in.
And I actually didn't realize he was alive that late. I thought he was earlier in history.
Well,
more like maybe not quite as far back as like a Jules Verne, but I thought maybe he was like more middle of the century.
Well, Fahrenheit 451 was the 60s, so
that makes sense.
So he
that's probably his biggest.
One. So I don't think he was that old. But I'll be honest, I didn't know how long he lived either.
Yeah, and he's getting up there when he's hosting this. He's not a spring chicken.
No.
But every episode begins, I guess, with the same intro that we saw, where we're taking a look into his library.
Where do I get my ideas?
Where do I get?
Yes. It's very cheesy.
It is cheesy, but
it's very appropriate.
I think it was effective.
It was.
So look, at somewhere down the line, we might do another episode of the Ray Bradbury Theater, and we could talk a little bit more about it. But listen to some of these guest stars, by the way, that he's on: Drew Barrymore, Shatner, Eileen Brennan, Jeff Goldblum, Eugene Levy. He must have been pretty young at the time. Saul Rubinek, who played on Frasier. He played Donnie the lawyer on Frasier. Lucy Lawless, when she was young. Howard Hessman, who just passed away. Elliot Gould. My buddy Leslie Nielsen. I mean,
he's got some people wanted to be on this show. This is like I just want to say upon the little bit of information we know about this show. You want to talk about influential TV? When I watched this, I was like, this seems like this should be on like now.
Yeah, I mean, or at least like
that level,
X-Files era.
Yeah, like when
10 years after the fact.
Like this seemed a little ahead of its time. I would say,
well, and you know what?
Boldness of stuff.
I think this may be a common theme running through the Anthology Zone.
Because that's also very
Twilight Zone. We said the same thing. Like I could not believe they were airing that in the 50s.
Well, you know what? That's a classic. People not taking science fiction seriously, but because they did, people could really sneak in a lot of strong commentary. I'm like, whatever. It's just science fiction. Huh?
That is actually an excellent point. I think more than most, because especially if we think about TV in the 50s, certainly, but even in the 80s and the Reagan era and everything,
nothing this intense was usually.
I mean, Hill Street Blues was about as gritty as it got at the time, which for a cop show was gritty. But then a decade later, you had NYPD Blue.
Yeah,
so you always have to sort of judge it a little bit before its time.
I'm just saying, if that's what they're generally like, I thought it was pretty intense stuff for 80s TV.
Yeah, I should say so. And you said you said before we went on, it wasn't a barrel of laughs this episode.
No, you were joking about. What a light little romp this was.
A light romp. So George Hill is the character's name that Donald Pleasance plays. Do you want to talk a little bit about the plot?
Sure.
Before we get into the review,
I'll see if I can do that.
And again, if you want to watch it, I'll put the description or the link in the description. Watch that and then come back to us and hear the commentary, because we'll do spoilers here for sure.
Big time. But check it out and see what we think and talk to us about it. But basically, Donald Pleasance plays our main guy, and it opens up with him basically in prison, and he's basically going to be on trial for killing his wife, but he keeps swearing, I didn't actually do it, and these guys are kind of creepily saying, you know what you did. And we even see this image of his wife kind of walking away, like she's clearly out there.
Yes.
So we're very confused.
From the prison window.
From the prison window.
Yeah.
And so it's very confusing and disorienting right away. And then it kind of does a lot of flashbacks where basically in this sci-fi world, it's kind of like the ultimate holodeck, essentially, where they kind of genetically create what you want, and you can kind of go to like these spa places. That reminds me a little bit of, not to go off on Dune, but part of the mythology of Dune is there's this planet where they generate people for whatever you want. The tagline of the Tleilaxu is, whatever the need, we have the breed.
Oh, okay.
So
interesting.
This guy apparently was having issues with his wife, so he kind of made a fake version of his wife to go in.
To step out, basically.
To step out and have fantasies with, date a romancer. But it turns out that, these people, these, I guess, genetically modified people may or may not have consciousness and free will of their own, and it turns out that she might have been kind of loving some younger guy going in there, because it's essentially like a sex place where you could
I mean, she's basically a prostitute. It
was weird because she was tailor-made for him, obviously.
Yes.
But when he wasn't there, she could be available for other people.
Right.
He finds out about that, gets jealous, and she kind of uses this almost to kind of incite him to kill her, because she doesn't really like her life as this slave. But who would? Yeah. But then he ends up getting arrested for killing her. But then part of the episode is also about putting him on trial, because the argument of
that
whether
was a crazy trial too.
Oh, it was very dystopian. It had a very Terry Gilliam kind of vibe to it. Very, very, very surreal, the episode. But the idea of like whether or not he was actually guilty of murder, because was she actually a person? And that's kind of also an underlying theme. Yeah. Though the episode is really more about this man's kind of tragic loss of love with both of his wives, because ultimately it is kind of
lost everything.
It's seen as, he was voted that actually was decided that he did kill somebody.
Yes.
In a way, he technically did. They decided that. And so it turns out his wife actually did come to kind of visit him and say goodbye anyway. And,
that was a good scene.
But now it's a murder, and he kind of sort of killed his wife because he clearly had some other issues as well. And it kind of just ends with, well, he's screwed now. That's a lesson. And I'm like, okay,
Yes.
so it's like, yeah, it's a
Yeah,
little
a bit
dark.
of a lesson here.
There's a couple little themes. I mean,
Yeah.
you've got the whole tragic love thing, but you've also got the whole, what's murder, what it doesn't mean to be human, classic sci-fi
That
stuff.
I mean, I talk about stripping sci-fi back to the basics. It's some of them here.
But I loved your I'm gonna spoil it and say that I loved this episode.
Oh, good,
but,
okay.
But I really
you liked one of my comments, eh?
I did like one of your comments. Well, two of them.
Okay.
One beforehand, because you picked this and you were like, I think this is a Joe special. Like, I think this.
Well, because as soon as I heard Ray Bradbury, I was like, Joe's gonna be in on this.
I was so shocked because I didn't know.
Yeah.
But the thing you asked when we were watching it is that is Ray Bradbury usually this trippy? Because it's very weird.
I really didn't know.
There's a lot of lighting, and since it's like out of sequence, and the one of my favorite scenes that is there's like a lot of just little world building they do where they don't like explain a lot, but when he goes to kind of like see if you can arrange to get this person killed, he's talking to the guy and he's like trying to get him to admit, like, well, is it actually murder? Like, he wants to get him to say it. And it's like there's weird agencies that will kind of kill someone for you, but not exactly, because you can murder these specific people because it's iffy.
Yeah.
So because he doesn't want to get in trouble. It's just there's a whole
very trippy
kind of like under the what do you call it? Subtextual pseudo criminal agencies that are around. It's very seedy. But it also seems very it also seems very streamlined at the same time.
They certainly had a
system.
A system, a procedure, a process.
But the whole thing was very creepy and off-putting.
And he certainly didn't know quite what that process was.
Because I know these places exist, but should I even be here? Right. Like, it's not 100% legal.
Yeah.
And it also had like a lot of Philip K. Dick, like Total Recall vibes. Like, there's just a lot of so I liked the presentation of it, and the lighting was weird.
And I was actually just about to say about the lighting. So let's take it there for a second.
The fuzziness of it.
Well, it reminds me a lot of those sort of early, say like almost 80s Doctor Who, like Tom Baker kind of vibes, where it's very minimal sets.
Definitely a couple rooms.
The courtroom was very minimal. His jail cell was very minimal.
Jail cell, the suite,
even looking out on the street, all we really saw was her in the car.
Like, we clearly filmed this in one building.
But the lighting is a part of that. Like, they almost make the lighting a character.
So you knew you're in a different place.
Because it just was disorienting you, but at the same time...
And it's got like that...
informing you of that it was a new scene and this is
a different emotional thing. Like when he's with his wife, it's almost that pinkish red glow that's almost like they're in a mist.
Yeah.
Like, is this kind of dreamlike? Is this a fantasy for him? The whole thing felt like that.
Yeah. And listen, this is obviously very early HBO.
Yeah.
This is before they had a lot of money. They were mostly known for the movies at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a production actually in Canada. So I'm not sure if it aired in Canada and then HBO bought it or what the story was. But, but yeah, I mean, if this were made today, obviously they would do all the different CGI and all the things. I personally like that we're sort of taking this trip.
I like that it's subdued.
Because it's more basic.
Well, it's more
and you can focus on
the ideas,
the emotions, something that, to bring Dune up again, that I really liked about the new Dune, too, is that in a modern movie, it's rare to sort of have, because yes, there was a lot of CGI in there and everything, but the character development, the world building, and all of that.
That's why people, not to bring Dune again, but,
I know,
but that's why people like Dune, because
mind.
it was such a big throwback to classic sci-fi. You don't see that much anymore. But
I love that about this.
And just the little bit of world building was great with that. And
the moraling. Oh my gosh!
And that's one thing I was thinking about, because it was a little while since you watched it, and I think you were wondering, like, is this what he's like? And I'll admit I'm not an expert on Bradbury, but from what I read, with like Something Wicked This Way Comes, and I think The Martian Chronicles and things like that. One thing about Bradbury, from my knowledge, is that he is much more about kind of using science fiction to kind of convey emotion, which is why I liked this story. It has all that great little world building. Like, this does feel like a very sci-fi world,
right?
But that's really not what it's about. This guy's tragic
about
fall
the emotions
with his kind of unrequited love thing, and about age.
Well, and about right and wrong, and
it's
morality tale.
It's such a human story
Yeah.
and so condensed. And there's a sci-fi world going on, and there are little details to make it seem very realistic, but it doesn't really matter. And I
Yes,
and I
you're
love
right,
that.
you're right.
And I love that.
Yeah.
It was I thought it was very good. Actually.
And Donald Pleasance, like we said, Halloween.
And
what else do we
also,
know him from?
He's also was the head of Spectre, James Bond. One of the
Oh, okay.
with the cat, hello, Mr. Bond.
Yes.
He's kind of, I don't know. I don't want to say he's underrated because
I think people know.
People know, but he's.
I recognize the name when you said it.
You're like, oh yeah, he's been in a lot. He's one of those guys that would be in anything though.
Right,
But he
right.
usually brings.
I think he's most known for Halloween. Okay, yeah, You Only Live Twice, or You Only Live. What is that called?
Yeah.
Oh, he was in The Great Escape.
Mm-hmm.
One of my dad's favorites. All right, yeah, Halloween is I would
Halloweens.
say the main thing. Some of these I don't know, but
Some B movies.
but it looks like he was acting well into the 90s. So
But that's the
he
thing
lived a
about
while.
Donald Pleasance. He's one of those guys who he would kind of take on any job, so you'd see him in a lot of B movies. But he always brought his A game, no matter what he was in.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Now, if this was the Shatner episode, we know there's a Shatner.
Oh, I'm sure that would be
Bradbury.
good for a different.
It would, right? I
am so upset about
Right,
my
like-
wife leaving me.
But like you said, Pleasance is
very-
really throwing himself into it,
And he's very
as
clearly-
if this is like
This is
the Shakespearean play of the year kind of thing. Like
pretty much. It's
he's
almost a
really,
one-man show.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
He's in certainly every scene, and a lot of the other people we don't even see.
They're just voices.
They're sort of disembodied voices and stuff.
Extras in the background, kind of staring at him ominously.
Yep. And again, look, I could be budgetary constraints. We don't know, but
hey,
it works.
that means good writing,
works
good
for
directing.
it. Yeah.
And I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. So should we grade this, I guess, before we head out?
Yeah.
Or do we have more to say? I think we've said just about everything.
Yeah, I really
Are there
like
any negatives?
Okay.
I mean, it could be maybe too on the nose for certain sci-fi tropes.
I mean, yeah, but I also.
But I don't think that necessarily hurts it.
I think it was. I kind of almost wanted like a little more of the world, and I admit that I had to think. I had to really like ponder it a lot to kind of figure out what exactly was happening.
Yes, that's
Like-
my biggest negative. It is a little confusing.
Because I was like,
And I'm a bit of a science fiction lay person, so
well, no, and
it was a little confusing for
but
me.
I liked that it made me think, but I was kind of like, wait a minute, okay, so who is
Yeah.
this person? She's not his wife. So I had to
Yeah.
think about it for a while.
Yeah.
But I didn't mind it that much. So with that in tow, I think it's very good. With that confusion aside, I leave it with an A-.
Okay,
I thought it was great.
That's my grade too. I think A- is good for this because I don't want to give it an A because
don't
if we
see the
watch
rest, yeah.
if we
Then
watch
they're
other
blowing
Ray
all the water.
Bradburys, I'm like, oh well, that's really an A. I think A- is solid for this.
Yeah.
Um,
You know what I would have liked though?
Tell me.
I would like more. I mean, maybe they'll all kind of feel like this, where they're kind of in that world. I want to know more about the legal
Yeah.
system in this debate because
Yeah.
it's like it was interesting. One thing I liked.
Yeah,
was
is this
that
the only episode we'll ever see
of this situation,
particular world in?
Probably. 'Cause it's like a short story, and
Yeah.
I just liked how
Hence the anthology.
clearly it's a debate about these artificial humans, but the court case it was like unanimous. He's guilty. Like
Oh,
he
yeah.
killed somebody.
They didn't mince words on that.
But yet these people aren't considered people. So what's going on? See, it's interesting. And we'll never know because
We'll never know.
Basically, that guy is he's done.
And I don't know if this was based on a previous Bradbury work or if it was an original. I couldn't find anything about it, which makes me think it was probably original.
OG.
Because like I said, I mean, it was all written by him, but only some were based on the stories, and some were just he wrote them brand new.
I really
for the
liked
show.
this a lot. I thought it was good.
All right. Well, thank you for joining. Next month we will have another anthology series. We did make a rule: no 2 in a row. Can't do the same show twice in a row. So who knows what we'll get next time? We could get Twilight Zone again.
Did you put a Black Mirror in? I forget.
Black Mirror is it goes up to even the present. Black Mirror is on there. I think I put Marvel's What If in there.
Did you do the new Twilight Zone as a separate thing?
I did. New Twilight Zone is in there.
Goosebumps, I guess.
And then
technically
Goosebumps.
Anthology.
I'm trying to think of all of them. Alfred Hitchcock Presents, certainly. Outer Limits.
That one that's kind of like Goosebumps. That's what was that on people on Disney or something? It was kind of like X-Files
Are You Afraid
for
of the
kids.
Dark?
I watched one episode.
Yeah, was that Anthology?
You think? Well,
I don't know. I never saw it.
I think it's one of those ones where it follows the same.
Like
character.
X-Files, where it's like
That's
sort of, some of them are
It's like
standalones,
half
but
anthology.
yeah.
Half-thology.
Yeah, we didn't put a half-thology in there.
We could do X-Files Monsters.
But we could do that. But what's nice is with the streaming now, a lot of this like really obscure older stuff is a lot more readily available. So yes, who knows what we'll get next time? It will be a different story, as we know.
Every week.
Every month or so. We'll do it every month. And that will do it. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see everybody next time.
Bye.
Bye.